popular and official participation, the bodies of our martyrs are carried to their final resting places. After admitting responsibility for the explosions in Aleppo, Idlib and al-Midan, the so-called Jabhat al-Nusra admits responsibility for the explosions of al-Qazzaz. The meeting of the Syro-Ukrainian Friendship Society condemns the terrorist acts targeting the Syrian people. Good afternoon, welcome to our news bulletin. I'm Dania Nizam. President Bashar al-Assad issued legislative decree number 35 for the year 2012 that stipulates for the formation of the Supreme Constitutional Court that constitutes 7 members, headed by one of them, and nominated by the President of the Republic by a special decree for a 4-year term that could be renewed. The legislative decree defines the specifications required of the member of the Supreme Constitutional Court, in addition to defining the court's specializations. Yesterday, the Syrian people carried their martyrs to their final resting places from the Mosque of al-Uthman in Damascus, affirming that their blood will motivate Syria's steadfastness and consolidation of the values of sacrifice, insisting on overcoming terrorism.
Huge masses of people and official figures escorted the martyrs who were killed by the terrorist twin blasts which hit Damascus last Thursday from al-Uthman Mosque in Damascus. After prayers, the bodies of the martyrs were covered with the Syrian flag and carried on shoulders amid the masses of people who expressed their condemnation of the terrorist acts committed by the armed terrorist groups.
The terrorists are trying to intimidate our people and prevent them from carrying out their normal daily life. This woman is unable to speak. Her husband was one of the victims of the terrorist explosion last Thursday. He was killed while he was going to work. The terrorists shall never destroy Syria nor break the will of its people, and they will face and foil this conspiracy.
The terrorists murdered a young man of 30 years, father of 2 children, a boy and a girl, who were waiting for his return at the end of the day.
The bloodshed on the Syrian soil is in defense of Syria's identity. The terrorist explosions shall never intimidate the Syrian people.
The explosions of Thursday were an act of terrorism par excellence. I live near the place of the explosions, which terrorized my young children.
The criminals shall never force us to give up our principles of loving our homeland and sacrificing our lives to protect it. I couldn't see the remains of my husband. I was told that he was torn to pieces. Yet, I wish I could see his remains for the last time.
My beloved homeland Syria shall always remain steadfast, standing high and proud. We shall tell our children the story of heroism created by their fathers to preserve Syria's unity and sovereignty.
History repeats itself. The rulers of the Gulf are playing the same role of their forefathers, plotting against the Arabs and the Muslims.
The atrocities of terrorism are indescribable. The criminals are shedding Syrian blood and trying to disrupt Syria's stability because Syria supports resistance and refuses to deal with Israel and America.
Patriarch Gregorius III Laham of the Roman Catholics in Antioch, the Orient, Alexandria and Jerusalem visited the site of the 2 terrorist explosions that hit al-Qazzaz area in Damascus. He prayed for the rest of the souls of the martyrs and for peace in Syria. He asserted that Syria would remain steadfast through the efforts of its sons who confront terrorism and insist on defending the unity of their homeland. He said the hearts of the Syrians would remain full of faith and love. He stressed the necessity of unity to preserve Syria and protect it from the evil of the wrongdoers. Al-Qaeda is a criminal terrorist organization that kills innocent people, destroys houses, and systematically attacks Syrian citizens and property under false names and claims that only serves Syria's enemies. It has admitted responsibility for the explosions of Aleppo, Idlib, and al-Midan using the name of Jabhat al-Nusra. It has also admitted the 2 terrible explosions in al-Qazzaz.
The bloody fingerprints of al-Qaeda have become clear for everybody. This terrorist organization has been raised and supported by Washington, which continue to smuggle members of this criminal body into Syria. The first leader of these criminals, Ayman al-Zawahiri, announced preparations to steal into Syria, while the director of the American intelligence, James Clapper, admitted that the explosions carried the fingerprints of al-Qaeda branch in Iraq. The American Secretary of Defense also expressed concern about the infiltration of terrorists into Syria. He conveniently ignored the fact that America supports the terrorists with money and weapons. America is responsible for every drop of innocent blood shed on Syrian land. The mentality of the West is keen on disrupting stability in the region. The emirs of the Gulf finance the terrorists who kill women, children, and old men in cold blood in their homes.
Participants in the meeting, the Syro-Ukrainian Friendship Society, asserted that Syria remained the only country in the Middle East standing firmly against plots targeting Syria. The participants condemned the terrorism and renewed their solidarity with Syria and support for its reform process. The participants sent a message to the UN Secretary General calling upon him to expose the American plots against Syria and the region. In their message, they affirmed their support for the process of reform led by President Bashar al-Assad. They called upon the international community to oppose the financing of terrorist gangs and to reject foreign intervention in Syria's affairs. The participants gathered before the Syrian embassy in the capital of Ukraine, raising flags and asserting their support for the Syrian people and their leadership. The right of return convoy has left the Syrian lands now. It is on the way to the Palestinian territories, carrying medication and medical equipment to the besieged Gaza Strip.
The humanitarian aid convoy, the right to return, heading to Gaza, entered into the Syrian territories through Qasab crossing point on Wednesday. The convoy is organized by a group of Europeans who stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people and Syria, and they are headed by the British former Member of Parliament George Galloway. The spokesperson for the convoy members thanked the Syrian government and people for facilitating their mission in carrying out the aid convoy to the Palestinians in Gaza and continuing the efforts to lift the siege that is being imposed on these Palestinian people.
The purpose of these convoys is to carry the message from one country to the next and to grow as we travel from one country to the next so that it becomes a genuine international peace mission when we arrive in Gaza.
He added that the convoy is scheduled to arrive in Gaza on the 15th of May, which will coincide with the anniversary of the Nakba Day, to remind the world that the Palestinians who were forced to leave their homes should return.
The purpose of this convoy from Europe to Gaza is Palestine. Not a piece of Palestine, not some Palestinians, but all of Palestine, all Palestinians. This is the third time that I have been, and many of my friends on this convoy have been on a convoy through Syria to Jordan to Gaza. On the last two occasions, we were warmly received by the people of Syria, and the mission was facilitated and made easier by the authorities in Syria.
They arrived in Damascus on Thursday. The same day, the Syrians woke up to the sounds of two horrible bombings, so the members of the convoy rushed to the hospitals to give blood to the people who may need it.
From a religious point of view, I think it's haram to kill anyone who's innocent, who's got nothing to do with the actual cause. It is haram to kill innocent people in Islam, and I ask the people who are doing it to stop. You shouldn't do it. It is not Islamic way of doing it. There's always a peaceful way of resolving things.
The convoy included ambulances, 14 buses carrying 24 activists from different European countries, in addition to the humanitarian, health, and educational aid. George Galloway, according to one of the members of the convoy back in the year 2009, told a meeting in London that he was going to fill his four-wheel drive with aid and drive to the Palestinian territories to break the siege on Gaza. Ever since, George Galloway has been sending aid convoys to the Gaza Strip.
Bahraini security forces dispersed demonstrators who went out in the villages in solidarity with some opposition who are arrested. Eyewitnesses said that dozens of supporters of the opposition coalition of February the 14th have participated in demonstrations under the slogan, "The Empty Intestinal," referring to the arrested Bahrainis who are on hunger strike. Witnesses added that the demonstrators, including women and men, have carried pictures of the detainees and chanted slogans calling for their release. Many injuries were reported as the security forces fired live bullets and tear gas to disperse the demonstrators. With this, we end our news bulletin for today. For more news about Syria and the region, you can visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy.